A father's promise beneath the New York skyline, in a small, rented apartment with peeling paint and creaking floors. Madison often sat by the window with her father, James. She was only 10 years old, but her eyes held dreams bigger than the city itself, dreams of becoming a doctor, of buying a house with wide windows, and of giving her father the life he had always sacrificed for. James, an immigrant who had left everything behind for a better future, worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. At sunrise, he labored on a construction site, lifting heavy beams until his muscles ached. At night, he washed dishes in a diner, his hands raw from soap and hot water. His shirt was always stained with cement or grease, and exhaustion was written into the lines on his face. Yet when Madison returned from school, James would set aside his fatigue and greet her with a smile so warm it lit the room. "Papa," Madison often asked, her voice soft with hope, "will we ever have our own house? One with a big window where I can put my study table?" James would squeeze her small hand and say the same words every time. "My daughter, Kay, America is a place where dreams come true. You must work hard, and I will always stand beside you. The struggles of survival, the American dream." However, was not as simple as James had imagined. Rent, bills, school fees, it all piled higher than his wages. He never bought new clothes for himself. His shoes had soles worn thin, patched again and again, but whenever Madison pointed it out, he would laugh and say, "These will last a little longer." One winter night, fate struck cruelly. On his way home from the diner, James's car was hit by a drunk driver. He survived, but his back was badly injured. At the hospital, the doctor's words shattered his world. "No more heavy labor. Your spine won't take it," for a man who had built his life on strength and hard work. It felt like the ground had disappeared beneath him. James wept silently that night, the first time Madison had ever seen her father's tears. "Papa, don't worry," she whispered, clutching his hand. "I'll start working too. I'll help you." But James shook his head firmly, his grip strong despite his pain. "No, Madison, your job is to study. This country may take my strength, but it won't take your dream. Promise me never let go of it." Madison nodded, tears burning her eyes. "I promise." The hard year's life grew harder. James left construction and took a small cleaning job at a public library. The pay was meager, but it was work he could manage despite his injury. There were nights when the fridge was almost empty, but somehow he always made sure Madison had what she needed. Madison, in turn, lived by the promise. She studied harder than anyone in her class. By day, she attended school. By night, she tutored neighborhood kids for a little extra money. In her notebook, she wrote the same line every day. "One day, Papa will rest. One day, I will give him the life he deserves." At 12, she entered a science fair. Her project on renewable energy won first prize, and the local newspaper printed her story with a headline, "Daughter of an immigrant wins science fair with dream of becoming a doctor." James held that newspaper to his chest, tears glistening in his eyes. His pain, his exhaustion, even his broken back, all of it seemed worth it when he saw his daughter shine. The big day. Years passed. Madison earned a scholarship to college. The day the acceptance letter arrived, James was mopping the library floors. When he read the words, his knees buckled and he sank into a chair, holding the letter to his heart. In college, Madison faced her own battles. She worked part-time jobs, studied late into the night, and often doubted if she could carry the weight of her dream. Sometimes, the exhaustion made her want to give up, but each time she faltered, she remembered her father, his worn-out shoes, his tired but determined smile, his promise. "If Papa never gave up, how can I?" She would whisper to herself, and she would push harder. Full circle, at last, the day arrived when Madison stood on stage in her graduation gown. The hall erupted in applause as her name was called. She walked across the stage to receive her degree, her hands trembling with pride and emotion. In the audience, James sat in a wheelchair. His back had weakened over the years, but his spirit was stronger than ever. As he watched his daughter walk with her head held high, the hall seemed to blur through his tears. Madison stepped to the microphone, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "This degree is not mine alone. It belongs to my father, the man who sacrificed everything, who gave up his comfort, his health, his dreams, so that I could live mine. Today, I am a doctor, but the true hero is my father, my promise, my strength." The entire hall rose to their feet in a standing ovation. James could no longer hold back the flood of tears, but for the first time in years, they were tears of fulfillment, not pain. The promise fulfilled months later. With her first salary, Madison bought a small house. It wasn't grand, but it had a wide window in the living room and a sturdy chair by it. She led her father inside, smiling through her tears. "Papa, you once asked me for a promise. Today, I make you one. From now on, you will rest, you will live in peace, and you will see with your own eyes how your daughter turns your sacrifices into dreams." James sank into the chair by the window, sunlight spilling over his face. He looked out at the blue sky, the same sky he had once thought he might never see again, with peace in his heart. "Madison," he whispered, his voice trembling with pride, "you have shown me the true meaning of the American dream. Dreams come true, not because life is easy, but because love and sacrifice make us strong enough to chase them." And for the first time in decades, James allowed himself to rest, knowing his promise had been fulfilled. Moral of the story: no matter how hard life becomes, love and sacrifice can keep dreams alive in the land of struggle and opportunity. The American dream is not about riches. It's about courage, family, and the strength to never give up.